Is it all good, Silvana? Are we live?
It's okay, we are live.
Amazing. Thank you, Silvana. Hello, everyone. So it is 10:59 here in the UK, so I'll leave 1 extra minute for maybe people to join, and we'll start. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and well, thank you very much for joining this live webinar. It is 11 a.m. here in the UK, and for being conscious about the time, I guess we'll start now, and hopefully people will keep joining us. So for today, we'll be focusing on two best-in-class solutions that us, and most importantly, our customer absolutely love, which are KNIME and Tableau, and we'll see how those two solutions form a perfect duo that can support your various data projects. To illustrate that, we will do a demonstration which will address a big portion of the data pipeline, which is starting from the right raw data all the way to building and automating an analysis. Before we start, I just wanted to let you know that you can ask questions during this webinar, and we'll keep some time at the end to answer some of them. And if we don't have time to answer all of them, we are quite a lot of people in this webinar. We'll try to come back to you on a one-on-one basis. Also, if this is something that I like to do before a webinar, is if there's any topic or specific situation around KNIME, Tableau, or just data in general that you would like us to address in a future webinar, please let us know as well in the comment section or the question sections. That allows us to essentially bring relevant content to you. So that being said, I quickly want to maybe start by telling you about today's speakers. So this being an event co-hosted with KNIME, we have the pleasure of having Julien with us, and I will let him introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to join you on this webinar today. My name is Julien Thiel, Head of Partnerships EMEA at KNIME, and together with our partner Mitral, I'd like to welcome you to this joint webinar.
Thank you, Julien. So I hope there's I see there's an echo, so I'll try to speak maybe closer to the mic, and please everyone on the line, if they can put themselves on mute, that would be great. Thank you, Julien. On the Mitral side, so there's Marius, who is a data analyst on Mitral.
Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here, and I hope we'll spend a great time together.
Thanks, Marius. And myself, Julien, who is in charge of the UK for Mitral. So here's a glance at what we'll cover in today's webinar. So we'll start by talking about the data ecosystem that we are presenting you today, which include Mitral, and we'll tell you a bit more about who we are and how we fit in a data space. Of course, we'll make a quick introduction of today's stars of the show, which are Tableau and KNIME. And finally, we'll get to the heart of today's agenda, which is a live demo. And I guess Marius will give you a bit of context in terms of what we'll be covering during that demo. So let's get started. And let's get started with a few words about Mitral. So Mitral is what we call a data pure player. We've been in business for 12 years, and all that we do essentially revolves around data and essentially helping our customer create value from theirs. And that can translate into a number of things, like help in choosing and implementing the right solutions, end-to-end project support or project management. It can be strategic consulting, so help in understanding where to start or where to go and how to get there, for instance, and of course, training and so on. So to achieve this, we have experts with various profiles and expertise, and that really allows us to cover all aspects of a business need around data, but also kind of working through all the stages of the value life cycle of data, which we'll come back to in a second. And today we decided to focus on two solutions, which are, as I mentioned earlier, KNIME and Tableau. And we did so not only because they work perfectly together, but these two combined solutions address the two main challenges that most people will face in their data journey, which is dealing with the data quality, as well as understanding your data to make better decisions, to make decisions. Coming back to the value life cycle of data, what does that mean? It represents all the steps and stages for creating value around data. And the idea is that you're going to be that person on the right of this illustration. And you're going to be asking yourself some key questions about your business. These can be about day-to-day operations, like understanding your sales performance, or maybe some more strategic decision, like finding new revenue streams. And my role is going to be here to help you find answers to these questions by leveraging data, and ultimately with the goal of helping you make more data-driven decisions. We'll go through the various stages, like collecting the data, connecting it, cleaning it, enriching it, and transforming it, what comprises of the data preparation stage. You can, of course, add some more advanced functionalities like artificial intelligence capabilities and so forth, depending on the project need. And then we'll face the second stage of the value life cycle, which is everything around data visualization. And the idea is that because everyone consumes data differently, there's going to be multiple ways of representing it so that people can gain insights. So you're going to have the more traditional report and dashboarding that a lot of you might know already or might be building, to more advanced representation like storytelling or data journalism, which is something quite popular for communicating to executive, and I'll mention that again. Or another type of visualization, which are embedded visualization, which comes in handy when you try to communicate to customers or partners. So that's kind of how I wanted to present to you my job today, and I want to move on to Tableau for a couple minutes. So moving on to Tableau, which is a tool you might be already familiar with, or maybe you're actually already using it. Tableau is one of the leading data visualization tool on the market. And to put it simply, its mission is to help people see and understand their data. And to do so, they've kind of developed a drag and drop technology, and it makes the solution very easy to use and intuitive. And that's why it kind of represents, or it's often called a self-service BI tool, meaning that everyone, regardless of their technical background, can autonomously and quickly answer the questions with data and essentially build dashboard to promote that analysis. So to summarize, Tableau makes data easy to consume. And on the right here, you see a quick example of a data journal. And data journalism is a practice we've developed here at MyJoel and is very popular among our customers. And the idea is that using the same techniques than journalists, when they use storytelling and an editorial approach, you can emphasize a specific event or insight so that the reader can access the most important information very quickly. So that's kind of the idea around building a data journalism. So that's it about Tableau, and I will pass on the mic, if I can say so, to Kilian, who will say a few words about KNIME.
Thanks. The KNIME Analytics platform is a visual open source platform for creating analytics and data science. It's easy and intuitive to use, and the integration of many other technologies is seamlessly possible. And because of its visual nature, KNIME makes understanding data and designing data science workflow accessible to everyone. Next slide, please. Yeah. There are over 2,000 native nodes coming with the KNIME Analytics platform, and these nodes provide a wide variety of functionality, usually from data access of various data sources, such as databases, files, services, and so on, over to data prep, data cleaning, ETL functionalities, to advanced analytics functionalities, such as predictive modeling, machine learning, deep learning, and so on. And furthermore, there are many nodes available or provided for data visualization as well as data export. Besides the native implemented functionalities, there are also many external best-of-breed software packages integrated. For example, Keras and TensorFlow or H2O, Python and R integration is available. And then there are also various cloud-based functionality integration available, for example, Databricks. And then, of course, on the other side of the spectrum, there are integrations with BI and visualization tools such as Power BI and Tableau that allow to export the data to these tools and visualize it there.
Well, thank you, Kilian, for this presentation of KNIME. So I'll be taking on the presentation now. I'll be introducing you to what we're going to do together. So for our business case, we'll be taking the role of a data analyst in a retail company. So our company is called SportUp, and we mainly sell sport articles such as bicycles and accessories, clothing, and also, why not, components for those bicycles. And we work at headquarters, and we're receiving data from various branches representing the countries where we've got stores in. And we're tasked with building a sales report, which needs to be automatically refreshed as new data arrives. Now, we receive new data from various branches, and it's split by countries, obviously, and it's split by quarters because we receive new data quarterly. And together we're going to use KNIME to prepare our data, and then we're going to connect to Tableau Online. We're going to send that data seamlessly to Tableau Online and start building a first draft of a dashboard to get insights about our data. And then we'll come back to KNIME, specifically KNIME Server, to show you how we can automate the execution of our workflow and therefore automate our dashboard. So in KNIME, as I said, we'll learn how to connect to our data. We're going to learn how to blend multiple data files in this instance together. We're going to enrich that data, and then we're going to send it to Tableau Online. Well, where we'll connect to the data source that we've published. We're going to create first dashboard, and then we're going to automate it. Without further ado, let's start this demonstration. Let me just switch screens here. All right, and here we are in KNIME Analytics Platform. So I don't know if a lot of you are familiar with it. So I'll start by giving you a quick tour of the interface. In this central panel here, right here, is the area, it's called the canvas, and it's the area where you will build workflows. So as Kilian mentioned, workflows are essentially a succession of nodes. It's a very graphical approach, so you just put nodes on the canvas and you link them together, and the data flows from node to node where it's processed. And you'll see that in just a moment. In the top left corner, you've got the KNIME Explorer. The KNIME Explorer is where you can connect to, for example, a server, or where you can access your local repository. So basically a folder in your computer. And I'm here in my SportUp sales folder of my local repository, which is where we'll work. I've opened the global sales flow on the canvas right here, and I've also got my data right there, and you can see that it's basically Excel files. So to show you I'm not cheating, let me just show you the repository. So this is the repository on my computer, the Excel files right there. Let me just open one quickly so you can see. So it's basically a table containing order information from our various branches. So you've got your order ID, your product ID. It's basically one row per product per order. You've got your product, your order, the territory, some dates that we can't see because the columns are too short, and the prices right there. So getting back to KNIME now. So this is the KNIME Explorer, where you can, as I said, access data and workflows. You've also got right there the node repository, which is your toolbox, and that's where you'll find nodes. So for example, if you're looking for a filtering node, you can type filter, and all the nodes that perform filtering operations will show up, and then you can select the one you want. You've got the outline, which is a way to navigate through the workflow. You've got the console where you get warning messages, error messages. You've got a description window right here, very useful when you're starting and you want to know what a certain node does. One thing I particularly like when you're a beginner is the workflow coach, which is actually an engine powered by the community, the KNIME community utilization of KNIME. So when you're starting and you're not sure how to start, you can always look at what the community does to start a workflow. So they use basically reader nodes to import data into KNIME. And then if you're stuck, those recommendations evolve depending on what you do with your workflow, obviously. So let's start now that I've shown you the interface. We'll start by importing one of our files, one of our many files, into KNIME. And to do that, it's very easy. You simply click on it and drag and drop it into the canvas. So you see that automatically KNIME has detected that this is an Excel file, and so it has put an Excel reader node at the in the position in the canvas. You can see that there's a little light, a yellow light beneath it. We'll come back to that in a second. And I'll show you how to configure the node. So you simply right click on it, a menu pops up, and you click on configure, and then it opens the configuration window. So you've got various configuration options. We're time constrained, so I will not go over all of them. But just to show you, you've got a preview of your file right there, and we see that we have the column names in the first row. So I want to check a box that says that my column names are in the first row specifically. I can then refresh the table. The preview, sorry, and then you see that the column names are have been successfully detected. So I can click on OK. Now the yellow light means that the node has been successfully configured, and I now can right click on it and click on execute, and the light turns green. It means that the node has been successfully executed. And one cool thing about KNIME is that you can at any point in your workflow, you can right click on an executed node and see what is at its output port, what data is at its output port by right clicking on the node and going at the bottom of the menu and clicking on the output table menu, output table option. And you can see our Excel file that has been successfully imported into KNIME. So our orders are here, order IDs are here, our product IDs are here. We've got it's from the Canadian branch, so we've got Canada right here, the dates, order dates, due dates, delivery dates, the quantity, the price, the catalog price, and well, the amount, which is basically the quantity times the price minus the discounts, obviously. So this is fine. We've managed to read one file. Now we can see that we've got a lot of files, well, we could drag and drop all those files, but that would be tedious. So another thing I want to show you in KNIME is how easy it is to manipulate advanced tools, advanced conceptual tools, such as a way to loop over all those files and read all those files in just a few nodes. So to do that, we're going to have to list the files in our data repository. And if I want to list the files, well, I just type lists and I hope for the best, and then there I've got it. I've got the list file node, so I can drag it and drop it from the node repository to the canvas. And there you'll see that the node has got a yellow light, sorry, not a yellow, a red light, and a warning sign beneath it. So the red light means that it's not yet configured and you can't execute it. And the warning in the console says the same, no configuration is available. So let's just configure it. So the node needs a location from where to read, from where to list the files. And for the location, I'll type something which is an address relative to the position of my workflow. It's called the KNIME protocol. So this KNIME.workflow data refers to this folder right here. I can include subfolders if I so choose, and I can say that I only want to list my Excel files. Once this is configured, I click on OK. The light turns yellow, meaning it's configured and ready to be executed. And I can now right-click and execute it. And let's see what is at its output. It's a file list, so you've got the absolute path and URL for the locations of all my Excel files in my data repository. I'm going to use those locations and turn them into what is called a flow variable, which is an advanced control tool, if you like. So to do that, we're going to use a node called the table row to variable loop start. I know it's a mouthful, but it can be a little scary, but I'll walk you through what it does. So as I said, when you can link nodes together by joining them, by linking them, but you click and you join the output to the input. That means that the data from this node, so the list of files, goes through that node, which is a table row to variable loop start. Let's execute it and see what it does. You see at its output, it's not a black triangle, but it's a red dot. And this is actually a flow variable. It's not really data per se, it's a way to dynamically control and configure nodes. So let's see what it is actually. It has actually turned the first row of my list of files into variables. And I'm going to use those variables to configure my Excel reader. So I can link my variable to the variable ports of any node. Each node has variable ports. You can show them by right-clicking and making Mickey ears appear. And then you can link the variable output to the variable input, and you see that the node knows that it's something is about to happen to its configuration, so it went back to the configured stage, so there's no longer data at its output. So we can go back to configuration, and now we're going to say that this URL, which is the location of the file that the node is supposed to read, is not configured, is not input by the user, but it's configured by the variable. So you click on this little V, you say that you want to use a specific variable, and we want to use, for instance, the URL of our file. You click on OK, and now the actual URL is used, so it's gray. I can't modify this manually. And there's a warning right here that says that the path of URL parameter is controlled by a variable, which is, well, basically what we've done. So I can click on OK. And I can execute the node again. And, well, it has read the first file of my data folder, which is the file that we imported. So it's the same data. But now I can close my loop using a loop and node. this one. Let me get it. Okay, loop and node. And then I can link my Excel data towards my loop and node. And what my loop and node will do is that it's going to collect the data from each and every one of those Excel files. Because at every time I go through that loop and node, I go back to the start of my loop, and the start of my loop is going to read the second line of that file and put it in the Excel reader, and the reader is going to read that file, and so on and so forth until all the files are read. So I just need to configure a few things in the loop end. I don't want to add an iteration column saying, well, this is the first file that I read, this is the second file that I read. I don't need that. And then I don't want to take any chances, so I'll allow variable column types and changing table specifications. But normally all those files have got the same format, because we can say that we've gotten our various branches to give us a report in a specific format, or we can say that we had a preparation phase before. So now that we've done that, we can execute the loop end. We've got a few warnings because we had the preview. Oh, what is this? No data. Well, ooh, that's a shame. This is not supposed to happen. What is this? What is this? What is this? No such file. Data. Okay. Let me just try that again. Cannot be accessed. What happened?
The beauty of live demos.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Well. What can I say? So have I done any mistake? No, that's the right folder. Maybe I should just not, I'm not gonna include any subfolders. I'm just gonna not take any chances. And I'm also going to not show a preview. So let me just reconfigure this quickly. Okay. We're going to disable the preview so as to not get any warning. And then this is okay. All right, let's execute it. Again, well, that's too bad. So there appears to be a bad file, but that says, so yeah, come on, Julien.
No, you might need to close the Excel file, apparently.
Oh, that is clever. Yes, yes, yes.
That's from one of our viewers.
Oh, yes, he's right. So let me try that again. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. I've got another idea. So I'm going to reset that, reset this, reset that, execute it. Where we've got viewers, which are KNIME experts. That's great. Okay, phew. So we've got all our data collected. So all our branches, all our quarters together, and that amounts to 30,000 rows. One thing I should mention is that this data actually covers 2017 and 2018. So we're going to, before we send that data to Tableau Online, we're going to enrich it using the product information. So we saw that we had product IDs in the product ID column, but this is the only information we've got about our products, and we want to have more information. So we're going to use export a product file right here, so you can drag and drop it and import it into the workflow. Let me just uncheck the read row ID mark, and then I can click on OK. And same, I can execute the node and it's imported, and you see that for each product ID, I've got the information, I've got the product name, the category, the subcategory, and so on and so forth. And I can then use a joiner node to combine those two tables together. So if you've done any SQL, you know what a join operation is. Otherwise, it's simply we're combining the two tables by joining the product IDs together. So for each product ID, I want the information from the product file. This is quickly configured. I can execute the node. And let's take a look at the join table. So for each product ID, I've got at the end of my table my product information right there. So that's going to be enough right now to build the first dashboard in Tableau Online. So the last thing I want to focus on is what Julien mentioned earlier, is how easy it is to seamlessly connect various data sources together. So for the purposes of this presentation, we connected to Excel files, but we could have connected to a web repository and or a database, and maybe we should have, and that way I wouldn't have had this mishap happen to me. But let's take a look at the same workflow basically that I built before. I can, one other thing that is nice is that I can click on the send to Tableau server node, right click on it. I can just copy it, and I can copy it back to the workflow that we've built together. And that allows me to not have to reconfigure the node. Let's take a look at the configuration. So the configuration is basically where you want to send your data, the credentials, and the name of the data source. So I click on OK, I execute it, and right now we're publishing our data source to Tableau Online. One thing I can also say while this is loading is that all these little annotations at the bottom of the nodes are editable. So if you double click on them, you can say that you're reading order files. For this one, this is the loop start, so it's self-explanatory if you know what you're doing, so you can remove the annotation. That's his listing files from the data folder. This allows you to share your workflows with your colleagues, and they don't have to open each and every node to know what it is doing. It's a nice way. It's an advantage of the graphical approach of KNIME. So the data has been published in Tableau Online. So let's switch to Tableau Online. Then again, switching screens. All right, we're in Tableau Online in the Middle Online Tableau server, and we're in the default project. Let me just refresh that. And here we've got our Sport of Global Sales data source that has just been uploaded. Let's build a new workbook and connect to that data source, which is right here. We're connecting to it. And let's quickly build a first dashboard. So I think more of you are familiar with the Tableau interface, but in a short, in a few sentences, you've got basically your column names on the left here, and you drag them in specific locations. So you can have them in columns, in rows, or directly in the canvas. You can have marks or filters. And if you're not sure, you can always click on the Show Me panel, and out of the data that you've put in, you can make it look a different way. So let's first build a dashboard about the categories of our products. So let's build the first sheet about the evolutions of sales per category. So we're going to drag the order date, put it in columns. Let's turn that into quarters. Now let's take the line amount, put in the rows, and let's split that by categories, making a different color for each category. All right, that looks like a fine first sheet. Let's build another one, representing, for instance, the share of revenue per country per category. So we're going to need the country names, and then we're going to put then again the line amounts here. Let's say I want a bar chart, so I click on the Show Me right here. I click on the bar chart, and I get a bar chart. And same thing as before. I split by categories, a different color for each category. And then, because it's always nice, we can build a map right here, a map split by, and then we can color the map by a line amount for each country. And then we can add a, yeah, so let's say a filter or detail, category name in details, or no, maybe not. We're losing information. No, that's fine. That's sufficient. And from these sheets, we're going to build a dashboard. So first of all, I want to resize that dashboard so it's nicer on the eyes. So let me put my specific size, 640. All right, and then I can drop sheets here. So first sheet right there, the second sheet, and let's put the map at the bottom. And then, well, let me make it a little bit cleaner by removing the titles. So remove the title right here. For this one, I'm going to remove the title and then fit it to the entire view. And for this one, I'm also going to remove the title and fit it. Well, no, it's fine as it is. And then I can say that I want to filter using these little icons right here to show you what this can do. I can click on the United States and then I get only the United States data, for instance. But what we can see from this dashboard, we've got 4 countries, so France, Germany, Canada, and the United States. We don't have the UK, and that's a shame, but we're going to have it. And so, as I said, we've got data from 2017 and 2018. That's the first draft of a dashboard in a couple of minutes. Let me go back to KNIME server to show you how we can automate that dashboard. So we go back to KNIME. We were in our local repository right here, and we're going to the server where I've already uploaded the workflow. And I've also duplicated my data. So I've got my data repository right here. I've got my old data, as I've called it. It's the data on which we just built the dashboard. And I've got my new data right above it. So this way I've simulated the arrival of new data. So we've now got the data for 2019, and we've also acquired the data for all the years for Great Britain. I mean the UK. So I can execute the workflow. I can also simulate the automatic execution of the workflow by executing it. So I execute the workflow. And while it's executing, I can actually show you how you could have scheduled it. So in scheduling options, you've got a box where you can tick to schedule the execution of a job at a fixed time, and you've also got options. So this is really a classic time scheduler. You can repeat the execution every hour, minute, day. You can choose not to execute it at certain days of the week or days of month or month. You really have all the options available. There are also options to have a workflow called by another workflow on the server, so you can wait for a certain action to be performed before executing your workflow. And then you can also, if you have configured an email server on your KNIME server, you can also receive emails on success, on failure, or of your workflow. So you can know if your workflow has been successfully completed or if it hasn't. So you can also see that the workflow, the state of the workflow by looking at the icons next to the instance of the workflow running on the server, which is called a job workflow job. So right now it's executing, so it's going through all the data, and it's just finished execution as shown by the little green dot next to the job icon, which means that we can go back to Tableau Online and refresh our data source. And ta-da, we've got it. So we now have the United Kingdom. It's just appeared, so you can see right there. And we've also got 2019 data. So I hope this is convincing enough for an automation. I'm very sorry again for the mishap earlier, but if I want to conclude, I'd say that in less than 30 minutes or so, we have successfully created a workflow to process our data. We've got a first draft of a dashboard to get first insights about our data, and then we've also shown you how we can automate that dashboard. And this is what we do basically for our customers here at Midral. Well, thank you everybody. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation, and I'll let Julien conclude.
Thank you very much, Marius, for the demo. So we have a couple minutes to answer some of the questions we have received. There are a number of questions. Well, so I'll try to go over them. So there's a few questions around the recording. So it will be available. We'll send a link to everyone that has registered. And if you want like a specific, if you want me to send it to you specifically, just please share your contact details in the Q&A. Only us can see it. There's a number of questions that were actually asked or with regards to the demo. I don't know if you want to maybe take a bit of time to answer them, Marius.
Well, you can always ask, but I haven't got them on my screen. So
you what? Sorry?
I haven't got those questions from
Oh, you don't
my
have
screen,
them. Okay.
But you can always ask. I mean.
Okay, so there's going to be questions around. So is there a possibility to connect KNIME with other BI tools? So the answer to that is yes. So KNIME is what I like to call an agnostic tool that allows you to connect to various environments, like we've seen during Kilian presentation. So it is definitely possible to connect to various and different BI tools than Tableau. So in the likes of Click and so forth. There is a lot of different questions. So there's a question about module and the type of training that we offer. Just to answer that, so we do have a wide selection of training courses for both KNIME and Tableau, which ranges from beginners to advanced users. So if you're interested, know that you can download our classes catalog on our website. And also all our training consultants are certified trainers. So that's good information to have, and please download our catalog online. If you see, there's a lot of questions here, so I'm trying to make sense out of that. A question here is whether the KNIME server can be hosted on the enterprise infrastructure or a data center. I don't know if Kilian, happy to answer that, but if Kilian, you want to jump in, you're more than welcome.
Sure. Happy to jump in here. Basically, both. You can run the KNIME server on-prem, or you can run the KNIME server in the cloud. And KNIME can basically sit in between, in the middle of your data center. This could be various databases. We're also working on an SAP or a Salesforce integration and systems like that. And then this would be the data sources on the one hand side, and then on the other side, there are various visualization tools, as you already mentioned, Julien. For example, Tableau is one of them, but then there is also Power BI connector, and it's also possible to transfer data to Qlik. The KNIME server provides a REST API. With that REST API, it's possible to trigger the execution of workflows on the KNIME server, and the KNIME server can also deliver data by that REST API. So systems like Qlik, they can connect to the KNIME server, and then they can pull data for visualizations, for example.
Thank you, Kilian. So there's might be a question for you, Marius. So in the Tableau configuration, what do we need to specify so that the data is loaded to the right application? That is a question from Akil. Let me know if you want to repeat that.
Yeah. Well, you're going to specify your project name and your the name of your data source, basically. And I mean, for an application, I think what you're referring to as an application would be a project. So it's basically the project name. Okay,
thank you. So there's a question about the pricing of the various solutions mentioned today. So we're most likely going to take that offline, as this can be quite specific to a specific project. But to summarize, Tableau is priced per user with various costs depending on the type of licenses. And I don't know if we mentioned that, but KNIME, the KNIME Analytic platform is an open source solution, so it's completely free to download, and we push you to do so. And there's going to be also the server sides, which is kind of the commercial aspect of KNIME, and that depends also on the server size, and which will depend on the project need as well. But we'll get back on a one-on-one basis to the people who've asked questions about the pricing. There's an interesting question about how to get started with KNIME, and I think that's a good link to what happened during the demo, where some people from this webinar kind of mentioned that Excel might be open. That might be the problem. One of the best way to get started with KNIME is the idea that there's a very active community who share thoughts, can help you, but also there's a lot of tutorials and a very active community that can help you start using KNIME. And of course, as we saw, it's quite of an intuitive tool, so you just have to use it and spend a bit of time. And of course, if you want to speed up the process, there's always some help from us in the training area or for some more personalized project consultancy. So I think there's a lot of questions coming up. It's going to be difficult to answer all of them. So we'll try to take that offline. Just before we go about our day, I just wanted to share with you an initiative that Major has launched to help data people while they're working at home and maybe lost access to some of the resources. And essentially, we're organizing every day a data clinic session where people can ask our consultant their data-related questions, and they will come and work on a one-on-one basis with you. This is completely free, so please, if you're interested, just contact me and we'll make that happen. That being said, thank you again very much for attending this webinar. We hope you got some value out of this. Once again, we'll come back with answers to your questions. If you're interested in learning more about our training, or if you have some specific projects you want to discuss with us, we are passionate about data. We love solving data problems, so please keep in touch. We're also creating a lot of content like blog posts, tutorials, and hopefully other webinars that will come shortly. So please follow us on LinkedIn and other social media platform. And that being said, thank you again. Have a great day and stay safe.